Hello everybody, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the brand new album by Katatonia, Nightmares as Extensions of the Waking State. So this is the band's 13th record, the unlucky number, but let's see if it actually manages to surpass that. But we'll have to quickly see how Katatonia have been going on, since this is the band's first official album without Anders, the lead guitarist, who has been pretty much the only other founding member, alongside Jonas, from Dance of December Souls to Sky Void of Stars. But his involvement with the band kind of dipped after the Fall of Hearts, with City Burials pretty much being almost entirely a Jonas solo project put into a Katatonia album. And then we had Sky Void of Stars, which I don't think his involvement was very much on that either. And the band also had a new drummer as well for this album cycle. So yeah, we pretty much had two new members join for this, and while they definitely do keep the sound of Katatonia to an extent, it does feel like something I can imagine Katatonia doing. It feels, just in my opinion, unoriginal for the band. A lot of the ideas we get presented here just kind of feel like they are rinse-repeat formulas of elements that worked earlier in previous records. Some of the guitar work reminds me of the Fall of Hearts, some of the progressive elements in Lilac, for example, also again remind me of the Fall of Hearts, which is not necessarily one of my personal favourite albums of the band, as much as I do like their growth from some of my favourite records they've done. Last Fair Deal Gone Down, Viva Emptiness and The Great Cold Distance. That 3 album run is just immaculate, pretty much almost entirely perfect. They kind of dipped with The Night Is the New Day for me, while still keeping some good ideas, but it feels like anything from Night Is the New Day onwards kind of gets brought along to this in a muddled way. Some of the songs feel like they could be B-sides to Sky Void of Stars. Some of the songs feel like they are just trying to replicate older ideas, but it doesn't really hit in a good way in my opinion. A lot of melodies just kind of come off a bit bland. Riffs just don't really intrigue, and while Thrice probably has some of the best guitar work we've heard in a little bit from Katatonia, it doesn't make up for the fact that I find the rest of the song to be quite forgettable. Thrice has this kind of gritty energy, and I even love the guitar breakdown in this song, but I don't think it's quite enough to really push me to go back into this track repeatedly. Matter of fact, none of the songs really pull me in. If anything, out of the 3 singles we had, the only one I actually kind of liked was Temporal. The melody's quite nice on that one. I kind of like the guitar work. It has this a little bit of the kind of Sky Void element to it, but it also pushes in ideas I can see from not Last Fair Deal, the Fall of Hearts, and even Dead End Kings to an extent. But I'm not really vibing with the rest of the record. There is some elements I think are interesting. The Light Which I Bleed. This song for the most part is definitely one of the stronger ones, but the fact that they had to do the cop-out ending of giving this a long fade-out pretty much ruined it, because it doesn't really need that. This one kind of transitions to the Swedish song Efter Solen, which I think the entire song is just pretty much in Swedish, and this one's kind of more of a distinctive sound, as it's very different from the rest. They're quite electronic-y. Not really any proper drums or guitars in it. It's just Jonas kind of singing in his home country language, and I then just find at this point I'm not really even bothered with the final track, as it doesn't really bring in much to the table. I find this to be kind of the biggest disappointment Katatonia has put out, as pretty much a big fan of their music, and generally some of my favourite albums are from this band. Last Fair Deal Gone Down is my favourite album of 2001. Great Cold Distance is definitely my favourite album of 2006. They've had pretty much 2 albums that I'd put above a lot of fantastic ones, because they managed to build this dark, gritty, gothic atmosphere passing the Death Doom sound, and I really do like how they've managed to pretty much put that sound to good use, especially with jumping from a huge shift like that. It could come with a lot of issues, but they managed to do it quite well. But the band's had numerous instances of doing that. The second big jump, to me at least, comes from Night Is the New Day to what we have now. At least Night Is the New Day kind of feels like it's transitioning from the alternative metal sound to just kind of this more gothic one. that the new album's trying to paint, but I feel like Dead End Kings is the first true step into something that plays with more progressive elements as well. Something that I think works for Katatonia in certain doses, and I just don't think they've really been able to make it work quite as well, to be honest. I find the album just kind of has a lot of the right elements, but just not done with the confidence. To me at least, especially with just the album title, the kind of crap looking album art, and the ideas for this album. I don't like to use this term, but it kind of feels like this is someone's idea of a basic Katatonia structured album. I'm not going to say it's an AI generated one, but this just kind of comes off as the standard idea of what you'd expect for Katatonia. All in all though, there is some redeeming qualities. I still think the songs do have a lot of oomph to them. Lilac has grown on me a bit. As I said, Temporal is quite nice. The Liquid Eye is generally one of the better songs on the record. Thrice is a good opener, and I do like The Light Which I Bleed, other than the Fade Out. But other than that, I just still think the album doesn't necessarily push the best ideas. As I really enjoyed Sky Void, I kind of wanted to see more ambitious ideas like the album had, and it just doesn't deliver in that way, unfortunately. But as I got to it, it's not bad, it's just definitely for Katatonia standards not a good record, and I think I'm going to be confident enough to say it's a 2.5 out of 5. It's very mid for Katatonia. I think this is probably the worst album they've put out, but the fact that this is, just 2.5, which is still an alright rating, does show that the band still puts in the effort. I just think that this kind of comes off as a weak attempt. I feel like they could have made this album worse than it is, and there's still a lot of effort and still a lot of ideas that I'd like to see explored more, but that's kind of where I stand with it. So I hope you'll enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.